Hello, it's Ileana and thanks for joining me for another one of my process videos in the Crafty Alcove. And this one is a layout that is for it was for the Victoria Marie Facebook group challenge as part of the 12 days of Christmas. And for this challenge we had to do 10 stamped spaces. There were a choice of 12 challenges for the 12 days of Christmas, and I managed 3, and this is my third layout for the 12 days of Christmas. And it's about my 2 boys, as often my layouts are, and plus my husband Dave, their daddy, who is face painting their faces on Christmas Day. They were very keen to have face paints after a long time without them. We did used to have face paints for the boys a couple of years ago, and they really went off them, and I'm not sure why, but they wouldn't have their faces painted, didn't like the idea. But suddenly they're now into these jungle animals, and they were desperate. And so Lorens was painted as a tiger, and Elias wanted to be a tiger as well, but we kind of convinced him to be another big cat. So I think he's a little lion cub or something. And they really role played very well that morning. They were very excited. Actually, it was the afternoon. But they found these face paints in their stocking. They were very excited about getting those on. And Dave came into his own because he doesn't normally do this kind of thing. He doesn't consider himself an artist. Personally, I think he's quite the crafter. And he's even done a couple of scrapbook layouts in the past. And they were really superb. So we have some nicknames for our Dave, one of which is Decoupage Dave, and sometimes we call him the Crafter's Edge. And I say we, it's the royal we. This is my name for him. But there's a few in jokes with crafting, and I can maybe explain those for you another time. But I'm running away with myself because now I'm showing you the products that I'm using. And this is quite an old pad, Bo Bunny's zoology collection, which I got in the sale. I'm not really surprised it wound up in the sale because it's not the most attractive layout. The papers are quite, you have to really love animal print to love these papers. And I'm not the hugest fan, but I knew that I would have some scope to use these papers as I have done today, because the boys are so much into their animals. And they really are. In many ways, they'll role play animals. They love roaring and all that kind of stuff. And as a kind of token to Lorenz's top, he'd chosen to wear that that morning, Christmas Day. The sausage dog top. It's been in his wardrobe for a while. It was nothing new, but he looks really cute in it. And his brother has a matching one, and he decided that's what he would wear that morning, Christmas Day. And I have a stamp of a Dachshund dog as well, so I thought that would go well here, and I thought I'd play and work that into the title, which actually is called Elias and Lorens, with the subtitle Growl, but there's also another subtitle in a speech bubble coming from the dogs, the dog and the deer, which says, "Santa, save us!" I don't know where these ideas come from with my titles, honestly, but I like to have a bit of fun, as you know, play around with words and all that sort of stuff. And the idea with this was that, of course, the Dachshund and the deer are running away from the 2 growling boys in a kind of flight, taking flight, as it were. So where are we? I've rolled out as many of the inks as I could. These are pigment inks, the silver. And I'm going with the animal print background as a sort of splodgy background. It doesn't show much with the silver, actually. I don't know if I would have perhaps preferred a bit more definition, but it is what it is. It's fine with me to just have something kind of interest in the background rather than a plain white. And so I'm going to pop that at the top and kind of around the bottom there, and I've marked out where the picture will lie so that I've got a rough idea of where that will appear. And so there we are, just pressing that down, the silver pigment ink, And you can see I paused to check and think, oh, it's not very strong, is it, the colour? But I've decided to just roll with it anyway. And the papers will do quite a lot of the speaking anyway, so it's not as though I'm without boldness at all on this layout. It doesn't look very Christmassy, does it? That's kind of my tendency. I don't really love scrapping with Christmas papers, even though this happens to be the 25th itself, Christmas Day. I've veered away from the reds and the greens as one might traditionally go and grab, but that's just me. Not to say that I've shied away from the sparkle at all, because there it goes. That's the sparkly washi tape. It's a really cheap washi tape and it doesn't work particularly well, but if you glue it down as well, I think that sticks okay. And so I've gone with a little bit of silver and plus some 2 different types of yellow washi tape, and that's going down there, some polka dots, and above which is a kind of a wood grain, and I've gone with the wood grain yellow at the top of the layout as well to frame it top and bottom. And these stamps here I'm bringing out are actually handmade stamps. I used to do quite a lot of painting and stamping with the boys, especially when they didn't know what they were doing with paint, and it was all a very messy affair, and had fun but also kind of like kittens at the same time that they used to use their paints. But I decided to make them each a stamp with their name on to see where they went with those, and to be honest, they didn't really use them all that much. They preferred to use different stamped images. Oh, well, you can't be too sad about these things. I figured that I could use them in my own craft, and I have. So the first one there, Elias, to represent Elias on the left and Lorens on the right. And the ampersand, I suppose I could have left a bit more space really, but it just nestled in between the 2 names. I hadn't accounted for it initially, but then actually it does work quite well there, and it's got a bit of a wood grain, which one could mistake for animal print. So Elias and Lorens gone down there. And of course I'm trying to get as many stamped images on this layout as I possibly can. I have exceeded 10, far and away, because I've stamped as much as I possibly could, including that speech bubble title. And here we go with the dog, and I thought that would work quite nicely on the animal print, which I've forgotten the animal. Was it elephant, or I'm not sure what it was trying to represent there, that grey, but I thought it could quite work well for this dog, and it does. So I've cut round there to the shape of the image, and in the background I'm just going to stamp directly onto that paper the deer. And I suppose I could really have made more of a feature of the deer, but I've just kept it as a black outline, and I was alright with that. Perhaps because I felt that there was quite a lot of work going into the layout, and I was just okay with just a black outline for the deer, and as a kind of a Christmassy sort of gesture, but making the dog the actual main character with the red nose. And we all know that should be Rudolph. But it reminded me as well, this, of The Simpsons and how they named their dog Santa's Little Helper. And I thought I'd try and work that into the title, but I didn't on this one. But it doesn't have to all be related to everything. Anyway, I ramble and I digress. You saw me also cut round a lion that was printed into the paper, and I didn't end up using that actually on the final layout at all. So I've wasted effectively a piece of paper, but maybe not, because I'm sure that I'll find another way to use that lion in the future. And just finding a way to stamp lots of images, so I've pulled out some, I think these are just bubbles, as well as I've got a stamp with some stars and Christmassy kind of things on them. So I don't know if these are bubbles or stars. Are they? Oh no, they are stars. Christmas stars from another little stamp set. Just fitting in that rectangle, which was created by the way I've laid out the 4 pictures. And just racing through as I back that on the adhesive foam tape there for you. and just patting down all the inks. I've sort of sped through anywhere that I think looks a little bit too tedious to watch in slow speed. So these stamps are from Hobbycraft. They're only a couple of quid, and I remember that actually I popped in there for something. This was months ago, and Elias found those. They were just at his eye height, and he was so intrigued by them, and he really wanted them. And I was like, "Oh yeah, okay, you can have those." And actually, he watched me do a bit of this layout, and he recognised those stamps from all those months ago, and he said those were the ones he bought, and I thought that was quite cute. And one day he will get to use them. I'm not going to hog them really, but he hasn't shown a particular interest in the little alphas to stamp up either. Not yet. He will. He'll come into his own. He's still only 4. He's just turned 4, so I'm sure he'll get there. They're both quite intrigued by scrapbooking, and they love watching the videos. So, you know, they want to have a go at this kind of thing as well, I think. And I've pulled out yet another stamp set from Do Crafts, and these ones I've had for quite a while but not used all that much, and so these are like kind of little swatches of washi tape, and I thought that would be quite nice to stamp down as well. In the top and the bottom I've gone with the mustard seed distress ink for that job, and I just thought I'd test out the colour to see that it toned in okay with the washi tape, and I was happy with that, so I've gone with it. Top and bottom. And I'll end up covering quite a lot of the top one there, because I'm going to put a real strip of, oh no, it's not washi, it's tape of scrap paper in animal print at the top, and in the bottom you'll see what I do there with the date. I want to say cut out, but I didn't cut it. It was just some die cuts that came in a pack, an ephemera pack from Basic Grey, I think, in a previous quirky kit. For these layouts that I've done for the Victoria Marie Challenge, I've decided to use my own stash actually, on the whole, and I've dipped into previous quirky kits and pretty much just gone with things that were lying around in my stash for ages and ages. So it's a lot of older papers, but I don't mind doubling up my challenges a little bit that way. I think it's kind of a good challenge to myself to use old papers, as well as a good challenge to go with something that somebody else has set. And why not combine them? And so these pieces are from, I think, the first quirky kit I ever ordered, which will have been about 3 or 4 back, from the summertime. And the oranges, I really liked the colours, so I'm using those brackets there to kind of give an indication of the loudness, but I don't know if it does that, but it was the sort of the feeling of raw. And the funny thing is I've used the word growl because I've used the word raw from the sticker sheet, which you'll see me play with in a minute, in a previous layout to do with the boys being kind of animalistic, but they actually were growling, and I know it's more bears that will growl, I suppose, if we're being technical about this, but the noises they were making that afternoon were kind of more growly, and anyway, so I've gone with that as a subtitle. Now, what was I doing next? I think I'm trying to make that right now work in this layout, but I didn't get it to. It didn't really quite fit, even though I thought it was going to. I really tried to make it work, but it didn't. So I'm just wondering if I've skipped past something. Yeah, up in the top left corner I've tried to stencil in what actually would have been holly, and I've even gone to the lengths of popping in 3 red berries with my pen, and as I was looking at it, the longer it was staring at me, the longer it was saying, just cover me up. So I did, but not without first stamping a few extra bits and pieces down. And of course these sequins, which often do feature in my layouts these days, well, the quirky kits often come with them, and that got me thinking to use them in lots of ways. And these I've had for ages. They only came from the pound shop. They were very inexpensive, and they contain thousands of really gorgeously coloured, kind of autumnal colours, I suppose. Possibly Christmas. But they weren't marketed as Christmas sequins, but they are really gorgeous, so I've used those. And that's the sticker sheet. You can just see coming into frame there, and the word Growl as I try and work that in, which will eventually be just below the word Lorens. Alongside another sticker that just has little spots on it. So try and work that any which way, all over the place. Oh, actually, yes, that goes top left, and there's another one similar to that to kind of mimic that, which will pop alongside the word Growl in just a second once I've figured out where it's going to go. I thought I'll just show all this twiddling around and see how I fuss around with the placement. Sometimes I'm decisive and sometimes I just can't quite think. And this was one of those days. There it is, that's where it's going to go. And the word grr down in the bottom right there. Now the sequence is going to be really sped up for you now. So you can kind of get the impression of what I'm doing. I'm just putting down some sequins all over the layout, and I've really gone to town with these because there are some lovely little ones that almost seem to have leopard print on them, plus the oranges and the just generally sparkly ones that I just really wanted to get maximum use out of for this layout, along with the stamped images and everything. And so I'm sticking it down with the glossy accents and some kind of tweezers. There's not much to that really, so as I say, I've sped that through for you. And we are really coming into the final throes of this layout, and so I'll read for you the journaling that I'm writing now. And it says, "To think, boys, that Rudolph the Red-Nosed Dachshund and Prancer brought face paints to you, and then you went and frightened them off." Well, laugh out loud. And that was them Christmas morning, and this was the layout about them. Thanks so much for watching. Bye for now.